Good morning, everyone. Spring equinox here tomorrow, autumn equinox in the southern hemisphere. The atmosphere of heaven and earth are changing rapidly here where we are. The quality of the light increasing, so beautiful and welcome. We're also entering into the Easter season, emphasizing the spirit of resurrection, which is always at work in the body of the Son of God on earth, and is always at work in the earth at this time, this season of the year. So beautiful to have this opportunity to be together now. And I want to tell you what a thrill, a pleasure, a joy it has been to work with Davina over this past month. I think we've come to know each other in a way that we always felt was so, but never knew, because the richness of the engagement that we've shared, we've never had the opportunity before to do that. Because of the experience, I've come into a place of profound respect and love for Davina and the woman that she is, and great trust, born of this concentrated experience that we've had over this past month. Deeply heartfelt, frank, open, sacred conversations have flowed between us. And I know that if we fulfilled the potential of what is present this morning, we would go on for hours. So if we can share some high and fine points together, it will be fulfilling, and we'll have the rest of the year, all of us together, to share more. This is the service that marks the beginning of the third year of the Temple of Light service pattern, once a month. I did a count over the last 2 years. There's been, I think it is 18 women who have provided a focus for our service in the last 2 years. And I believe it's 15 men. And beyond that, the comments themselves sometimes were essences of services themselves, in themselves, offered by a number of women from Korea to England to South Africa and across North America, and men as well, having the friends from Korea that Eugen is providing leadership for and with has been most wonderful. Here's a piece I want to read. It's from the book of Malachi. It goes, "Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. Return unto me, and I will return unto you." I think that's the main theme of our time, Davina and I together. Return unto me, and I will return unto you. saith the Lord of hosts. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. And prove me now herewith, if I will not open you. David, Davina, every one of us on this line, prove me now herewith, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that there shall not be room enough to receive it. And so this service relates to the opportunity that we always have to return. Not just return ourselves, presumably that's been done, but open up the gateway and the doorway for the great return of substance, of response, of the earth and the sacred systems of the earth and the world to the Lord. Return unto me, and I will return unto you. I don't know how far we'll get with this today, but in relationship to that return, Yolanda said this a number of years ago. We have come to the next step. This is the period when Mother God must come into her own, or man is lost. If he continues to cling to the old concepts with respect to God, he's going to fail. How are you going to have the child without the mother? Jehovah is Mother God, and the manifestation of the child or the body must be in relationship to the mother. And so we have Father God in the invisible realms of heaven now, and Mother God in the visible. And we have not yet let Mother God have a body. And until we let Mother God have a body, the Father in the invisible cycle cannot have any real meaning on earth to bring forth the child in relationship to individual living or living in the kingdoms of this world, the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, etc. And so this is the period when Mother God must come into her own, or man is lost. Now, we know this subject could take up every service that we have for the rest of this year. And it probably will in one form or another, because this is the great return. Return to me, and I will return to you. And so as sons and daughters of God, in representation of the Father and the Mother, we open the door for the return of the Mother and the ongoing revelation of the patterns of life in the family of man, in all the kingdoms of creation, for the return of the body and the substance of Mother Earth to the Father. All of which essences, Father, Mother, Child, are present within us as individuals and as a collective. So I have no idea really where Davina will take us in her sharing, but this opens up a line of thought that maybe I'll take up a little later, or maybe later today, or maybe a little later as we move through the months to come. But Davina, you're looking beautiful this morning, and it's a thrill to be with you, and I would like to turn everything over to you now.
Thank you, David. I found your words deeply moving, and the call behind them are precisely what today's initiation is about. Today, I'm going to be capturing essences. Here is a tabernacle, a holy place. Here we stand in the presence of the Lord to deliver his word to us, through us, and beyond. But as it is written, eye hath not seen, nor ear heard, neither have entered into the heart of man the things which God hath prepared for them that love him. Corinthians 1, chapter 2, 9. Here is the promise. How do I love the Lord? In the deep, quiet recesses of my heart, there is a holy place, inviolate, yielded. And here in that place is divine control, true government of spirit. If I examine this, I must ask, is it steadfast? Is it stable? Is it continual? Is it a whole or just a partial experience? Am I fully relinquishing my personal hold and assuming the stance of simple stewardship under his direction, letting the Father within do the works? To the degree that there is total surrender in total trust to the Lord, to that extent, my creative field, my world, the responding ones everywhere are returned to him. The holy place is to be kept inviolate. There must be enough generation of spiritual substance to hold the vibrational hedge of the holy place. Is it just a small place in the deep, quiet recesses of my heart that is pure and inviolate? How much space is there internally and externally for this holy place? To dwell in the secret place of the Most High and to make the Lord the Most High one's habitation, as it is said in Psalm 91, takes an obedient mind and a pure heart that holds the heavenly atmosphere in stability, consistency, and balance. In these times, the Ark of the Covenant is one of restoration. where the pure and holy essences are preserved, kept holy, sacred, inviolate, a space held safe, where the design of spirit is present. This ark is our responsibility. How trustworthy am I in preserving this sacred space within myself, never, never letting it be violated. No one can keep sacred this space in me, except me. We all have equal responsibility in this. If there is a sacred place in us as individuals, it is because we have preserved it. The tabernacle takes form around the ark. The ark is the focus of spirit for what takes form. And we form the ark of restoration to restore all things to the Lord. The composition of this ark is a living ark. It is composed of people. It includes those who are conscious and many who are not so conscious, but are nevertheless handling their responsibilities with uprightness, honor, integrity, and honesty, all participating in the expression of the Spirit of God at whatever level and in whatever way. The invitation has been extended over decades to relinquish everything of the human world, to come out of her, my people. The command has come again. Finish the work. I respond strongly in spirit, but what about action? If I'm honest, I still note areas where I feel the pull of addictive behavior to the human nature world, man's world. Some addictions are obvious, others more subtle. I caution myself to be watchful, alert. The stimulation of externals is everywhere, and it produces addictive behavior. We have a deliberate choice as to whether we are to be subject to, whether we are to be governed by external stimuli. Stability comes because we are centered in the stable Spirit of God. To the extent of that centering, we do not lose our balance. And we are not thrown by or dependent on any external events. Even if we stumble or occasionally fall off our horse, as Roger de Winton would say, we can get back on our horse, regain our centering in spirit, and find ourselves restored to equilibrium. There must be a firm hand which says no to the addictive behavior, no to the stimulation of externals. And especially in these days, it definitely takes a certain amount of discipline to move towards the point of stability. The choice is ours. We can either be addicted to human nature or to experience the truth, one or the other. But to choose the truth, we have to let go of the addiction. and no longer give way to it. We can't have both. It is not just a matter of hearing and seeing. The responsibility is the doing. It has no value unless we are doing it, and willingly. And until we emerge out of our own state of addiction, we cannot provide what is necessary for others to do likewise. The choice is stark. As Martin has said, choose God or choose the absence of God. Choose the truth or choose a lie. In choosing God, choosing the kingdom, choosing the king above all, here is the spirit of the single eye. My love, my passion, the spirit of the single eye. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Matthew 6:22. I have taken some essential quotes from Martin's service, The World to Come, which he gave in 1983 on March the 27th. What sort of a gatekeeper are you for what enters your consciousness? Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. That is the human state. Only with thine eyes, not with your heart, not with your emotions. The very moment you become emotionally involved with these things, you have allowed corruption to come into the holy place of your own consciousness. Let the consciousness be kept holy, so that the heart is pure. Welcome nothing else but the heavenly consciousness. There is no judgment in heaven. There is no condemnation in heaven. No reason for it. So let it be so in our consciousness, that we may participate in the continuing creative cycle by which the world to come comes. It cannot do so if we keep betraying it, and we betray it every time we allow motivations to come into our consciousness and give them our emotional support. Motivations which have little or nothing to do with the heavenly state. Motivations which have earthly origins. The world to come is coming. Who shall be included in the world to come? Those who let themselves be included in the consciousness of the creator of that world, and those who include that creator in their own consciousness consistently, so that there is never a break. As this becomes absolute, then the statement is fulfilled. Behold, I come quickly, bringing my world with me, in which are included all who accept that state of consciousness. Nothing shall enter in that defiles or works abomination or makes a lie. If we are inclined to defile and work abomination and make lies, we do not enter in. But if we are a faithful gatekeeper in our own state of consciousness, then we may participate in what has been described as the new heaven and the new earth, the world to come, which is and has been in the process of coming thus far for 19 centuries. We are invited to dwell in the garden in our own consciousness, where we may exercise the duties of a gatekeeper, and sharing in the heavenly consciousness, the world to come comes quickly. Praise the Lord. How effective is my mind operating as the guardian angel, the gatekeeper for my holy place? Am I maintaining my consciousness in the holy place, keeping the container inviolate? Or am I opening the holy place to the corruption all around? Is my response stable and consistent according to the first commandment, or is it pulled off into the realm of effects? Is there vacillation between the two? Moment by moment, where is the control point? What am I giving myself to? Neatly put, to be open to the divine, one has to be closed to that which isn't. This has been stated another way too. We cannot serve God and Mammon, the holy state and the worldly state. To have one foot in the holy place and the other foot in the realm of effects, man's world, the mind-made world, the unreal, is vacillating between the two. This is double-mindedness. Here is a divided state. And wherever we see or experience this, we find a house divided itself against itself. Are we coming all the way through, or are we still in the borderland? Here is Urunda, October the 16th, 1947. He who looks back overmuch to the kingdom of the prince of this world will find himself moving outward from the borderland and slipping back across the boundary into the realm of the prince of death. He whose eyes are steadfastly set upon that of true citizenship in the kingdom cannot be turned aside by conditions or circumstances, or by what any may think or say or do. And in another service, we either move toward God in the fulfillment of his will, or we move away from God toward oblivion. What does it take to yield to the spirit of the single eye? It takes everything. Everything. All of me. Relinquishing all. Full reverence and devotion to the first commandment. This is what it takes to finish the work, individually and collectively. Isn't that why we are here? To let the Lord's light shine through us to all the kingdoms of his earth. Isn't that the only means by which the resurrection can come? In my consciousness, in your consciousness. If my eye be single, my body, my whole body shall be full of light. If his body's eye be single, his body shall be full of light. And the veil thins, unveiling what is true, letting disintegrate what isn't. The word is with us continually, even unto the end of the world. When does the world end? When it is no longer present in consciousness. We are concerned with the end of the world. Let his kingdom come. In my experience, I have known within me many things that will need to be born, to emerge in the outer, in time. Grabbing hold of the inner feeling and seeking self-actively to actualize it easily aborts the cycle. In patience and tranquility, divine navigation governs and controls. We choose. That is how his kingdom comes. It cannot come on any other basis. In a service Nancy Rose Exeter gave with Michael at the 100 in 1987, she said this: as we remain trustworthy, as we remain in that appropriate arc so that we don't separate ourselves for self-centered reasons ever, then we participate together, male and female, so that the whole spectrum is present in attuning the world, attuning whatever may be in our individual worlds. All of these things that come to us then are indeed felt, but we are stable. We remain in the stance of the one who attunes, the one who is radiant, so that all of these things can move and come into balance and alignment as they should. When I am in true oneness with the Lord, I know the experience of being the connecting link. In my home, there is one space in particular where the seamlessness of the oneness of being with the Lord comes to focus. That is in my kitchen. In the quietness, tranquility, my very small kitchen is vast. In the simple preparation of food, the flow of what is above translates from the invisible into the visible, the outer, creatively, with precision and to perfection. There's great joy in that. As we as a body continue to integrate, we are one together, and the experience of the connecting link becomes ever more present and increasingly known. Within myself, I sense a fusion going on, a top-down, bottom-up fusion occurring. It is in a quiet, internal place, a reunion of the inner realms of the invisible and the outer realms of the visible. As I am lifted up, I shall draw all men unto me. Takes on new meaning in a vibrational sense, as the process is allowed to continue uninterrupted in an unbroken line. The resurrection of the restoration is proceeding, the real resurrection. Here, now. What is happening to the whole body of mankind, no exceptions. All are participating in the resurrection or in the disintegration of what has existed in the experience of human beings until now. This nightmare state is passing away. We either identify ourselves with the nightmare state and pass away with it, or we allow ourselves to move in the resurrecting process. There has been a vision that has been with me for a very long time, a vision seen from the inner eye. It appears as a collective of angels in formation, a lattice work, a garland of gossamer vibration, connecting one to another like a web, along delicate, beautiful lines, held between angels individually and in constellations. There begins to be a spiritual coronation of blessing being laid on all the kingdoms of this world. As this becomes a reality, then all earth is restored to our King. I thank you all for this space. And in a seamless way, I pass over to David.
David, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Thank you, Christina. All I said was thank you, Davina. The world to come has been in the process of coming for 1900 years in a very specific way. So Martin just said. I think it can be said that the world to come insofar as I am concerned, being within that borderland in the region above the fallen world, the world of which, with regard to which I am in but not of. The world to come is here. Heaven is here in a very real sense. The garden is at hand. And the Lord has come to his temple. In answer to the promise, return to me and I will return to you. I think we all here on this call should be able to easily acknowledge that since that amazing period of time in the mid-1940s, in a very real way, the process of the reunion of heaven and earth since that time has been established. And we are actually living and moving in a period and an experience of heaven on earth, all of us, that has not happened in a body of people, however small a body of people, since before the fall. There has never been a body of God sustained on earth, the heaven of that body sustained since before the fall. The birth of the body brought forth by Yoronda and those who worked with him was accomplished in its beginning formation. And we are a part of that beginning formation. It's not that long ago. This is a massive project. I did some research last night. As of now, according to Yoronda's dates, it is around 28,000 years ago that the first point of the fall of man took place. At the beginning of a 25,000 year fire cycle. And at the end of that 25,000 years, the Master, Jesus, incarnated to initiate this particular phase of the restoration that we are in now. At the beginning of a 25,000 year water cycle and a 2,000 year water cycle. He came into incarnation in order to allow the conception of this particular Christ's body formation that is now present and is continuing to grow and develop. And as long as we provide and hold the vibrational hedge as it relates to that, we have experience of being in heaven, being in the garden, being in that body, in the world of this fallen condition, but not being of it. And that is not just a theory. That has happened. It is happening, and the world to come is here now. For anyone who does what is required in their own life to experience that as being so. And that brings to conscious a tremendous sense of humility before the greatness of what it is that is yet to be done under the hand of the Lord of this creative cycle of restoration. Having returned to acknowledge and recognize who I serve. Focused in one, but also focused in many who serve with him, like you and I do on earth, in this body, which we might recognize has many aspects to it, but is centralized in the return of the earth, the form of the Spirit of Mother God, to heaven, so that heaven and earth are one. The spirit of the single eye in the head comes to focus right here, in the spirit of the womb, spirit of truth, spirit of the mother, in love with the Father, the spirit of love, present in the pattern of the head, of the body, of the individual and the whole, so that life and life more abundant can be born through the radiance we say of the Shekinah, the focus of spirit on earth, or anywhere there is a focus of spirit. Moving through the pure heart in blessing, gratitude, but with a single-minded devotion to let all substance rise up and return home, that the spirit of the new earth might blend with the spirit and the substance of the new heaven in me and in you and in this body. There's just something that is of great significance that I would like to begin to open up so that we can entertain it ourselves in the days and the months to come, and see what opens to be shared in service and in other venues as well. And all venues that serve the Lord of heaven and earth on earth in this day are vitally important to what is transpiring. Each one responsible for a different level, range, and dimension of substance carrying certain aspects of the spirit of the one body that are absolutely essential. And more will develop in the days to come. Yoranda said this to a group that gathered with him in a sanctuary space, a very small group in 1949. Altogether, you provide that focus of divine womanhood as you are centered in your queen, by which the restoration becomes possible, providing you are honest and true. We don't and haven't in our services and meditations in the past spoken much about the Queen of heaven and earth. We talk about the King of heaven and earth. I think there's something that we could share in relationship to that this morning that will offer a blessed open door as we move in the cycles of resurrection in days to come. Yoranda, 1952. Do you think the Master's life was without love? Oh no. Mary of Bethany was his sweetheart. Mary of Bethany provided the centering from the standpoint of the negative aspect of being for that outworking for which he was on earth and for which he labored. I'm sure a lot of you, probably mostly the women, men too, but are aware that there were a significant number of women, disciples of the Master, when he was on earth, who were absolutely vital to his ministry. I went through and did some research, and I found 9 named, identified, characterized, significant, a number of Marys. Martha, one might say, and Mary of Bethany, 2 of his most relied upon in terms of the core of his body of women disciples. Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Susanna, Salome, Elizabeth, half a dozen Marys. A number of them, by the way, were very wealthy, and they provided funds for his ministry that was developing on earth. I found 9. By the time that his ministry was over, he only had 11 primary men that were named. But you can see that there was something significant there in his ministry in terms of the angels who incarnated to be with him. masculine and feminine, and the gathering of those, and the substance that began to accrue around this core, which I would suggest was centered in Jesus and Mary of Bethany. I think it's altogether fitting and proper that very little is said about Mary of Bethany and very little is known. We know how the ministry of the Master himself was corrupted so very shortly after he was here. If the return, that great return, was to really relate to the whole, then there was something about the defilement of the earth and of the feminine vibration, wisdom, the mother, that had occurred at the time of the fall, when what was supposed to be the sons and the daughters of God became the sons and daughters of perdition that took over and usurped the earth and raped it and maintained that state for the past 25 or more thousand years. Then there would be a very great deal of care on the part of the Master about the manner in which he exposed the one who came on earth into incarnation to be with him and form that innermost core of essential generation, that as it was maintained in the Holy of Holies, would be allowed to expand out in rings of development of the body under his guidance. Here's a remember this verse? It's recorded 4 times in the 4 Gospels, each one a little bit different. This is from the book of John. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, just 6 days. You can imagine, if you know something is coming your way of magnitude, of great magnitude, in 6 days, you are feeling it coming. You are feeling the weight of it, the density of it, the significance of it, and the challenge of it, even in the minor things that we have to face in our world today. 6 days before the Passover, and he knew what was coming. Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he had raised from the dead. And there they made him a supper, and Martha served. And Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. One can feel the substance of that core interaction of intimacy at that crucial period of movement rising. Then saith one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him, why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had to beg and bear that was put therein. Then said Jesus, let her alone. Against the day of my burying hath she kept this. For the poor always ye have with you, but me ye have not also. Those three words have resonated in me for years. Let her alone. That is the command of the Lord to the satanic government of this world as it relates to the body and substance of the mother, of the queen. Let her alone. And that command resonates in this day. Now, we're not just talking about men and women. We're talking about that which is most holy and most sacred as it relates to the royal household, of which the sons and daughters of God are a part. Let her alone. And that command resounds to this day. And it should be resounding through us if we are, as we are, sons and daughters of God. There shall not be any violation of this sacred presence, this holy presence, which is only known in the Holy of Holies. Here's a few words by Yolanda. All God beings are under the law of the positive and the negative, and so they are male and female. The great master came into the outer planes to bring salvation. And while he was on earth, under the law, and we won't go into that as to why the law works in this way, but we'll just accept it as this right now. Under the law, he could not marry during his life on earth. Though his cosmic beloved incarnated to be with him during his outer ministry, Mary of Bethany and the Master, being cosmic beloveds, were very close sweethearts during all of their outer life manifestation. And let it be noted that Mary of Bethany was not Mary Magdalene. Two different women. And we could go into another time without regard to any of the statements about Mary of Magdalene in popular culture these days, but go into it and examine and feel our way into something of the significance of what Mary Magdalene brought as a disciple of the Master. His cosmic beloved incarnated to be with him during his outer ministry. Mary of Bethany and the Master, being cosmic beloveds, were very close sweethearts during all of their outer life manifestation. And also note that Mary of Bethany was, of all women, most beautiful and holy and pure. And they are our great King and Queen. That God being, that angel who incarnated as Mary of Bethany, has not incarnated since that time. And she ascended with the Master when he ascended. Perhaps that's enough for the moment, except to emphasize maybe in conclusion that when we speak of our King in the days to come, And if we're inside that borderland that Davina spoke and read about in the kingdom, we have a very vivid awareness of the King of the kingdom, always. And when we speak of the King or the Lord of this body that is now developing, we might also immediately have recalled that in the kingdom there is also a queen. Just as real as the King of the kingdom, and just as vital. How can there be a conception brought about by the vision of the king, for example, if we don't have it brought about by the vision of the queen as well, the male, the female? And we think of those cycles that the master set in motion 2,000 years ago that worked subconsciously and to some degree consciously to bring us to the point where Yolanda was able to incarnate and to remind us of some of these things. And working through the cycles of his life, he came to the point where, you might say, as a king in the outer world himself, Yolanda had brought to him his queen, without whom things would not have developed as substantially as they have. And I speak of Kathy, a representation there on earth of the king and queen of heaven. And therefore, because of the blending in the two in relationship to that two above, we're able to bring forth through their ministry together that which we now know. And more is to come for all of us to, as these things are unveiled, the Spirit of truth brings all things to remembrance. But that in the days to come, when we think of the King of Kings, we think of the Queen of Queens as well, and recognize that they came together to accomplish something. And there were cycle after cycle after cycle of spiritual conception because of their communion together. And the master went frequently to Bethany because that was his greatest sanctuary. That was the one place that he had on earth to lay his head. And they maintained the hedge. Those three in particular, Mary and Martha and Lazarus in that home, a sanctuary, and others came to be with them. And in this period of time, a week before the Passover, when Mary anointed his hair, there was something extraordinary taking place in terms of the generation of substance that was gathering and allowing him to move within an expanded angelic hedge, such as it was, not very much provided by people, but by a few, into that pattern that we know as the crucifixion, where that which was provided from below was met with that which was provided from, that was provided from above was met with that which was provided from below. And there was angelic care at both levels. Should have been more at this side of the equation, but it was enough. And so this consideration and our awareness of the King and Queen of heaven and earth, just a little bit that we know, and that knowing in the sense of becoming aware of, not that our mind knows, we can take into our sanctuary space in the days and weeks and months to come and ponder it and see what comes clear. And this is part of the great return of the substance, a recognition first of the spirit of the mother in oneness with the Father, and the great care that the Father has taken to bring it to this point so that his wife, his queen, would not be raped and her body would not be raped again by fallen man. So we care for all of this in the holy place and in the Holy of Holies, in the temple of light, which is living. And we have an opportunity to ponder the presence of the King and Queen in the heaven that is here right now, and that I and you live in and have done without even knowing it, really, through all the years of our life. It's been there. Now we know it, intended with greater understanding and greater care than ever, that as it was put a while ago, the work might be finished, but it's a big job, so it's going to take a while to finish it. It's going to be one generation of substance, but several generations of people carrying this on. Yolanda actually said in outlining this piece on Mother God must come into her own or all is lost. He indicated that it was this 2100 year cycle that is absolutely critical. And certain things need to be achieved in this 2100 year cycle that began in 1766, and at the beginning of which Yolanda came into incarnation and Martin, and we came. So this is just the beginning of things. When we think of what it would actually take to have the whole thing that has taken 28,000 years to get into this mess to be completely cleared up. We might, when we first have thought of it, may have thought, well, this is going to happen in 40 years. It'll all be over. But certain things need to happen within certain timeframes, but in the larger picture, in terms of the whole mop-up operation, it is a longer period of time, and it's going to take incarnations of angels well-trained to steward the process. This is why I love what Eugen is doing in Korea. Okay? He's providing some education for people who are starting to get it, really get it. It's beautiful. But here we are today, and we have these things that we've shared, and I've said enough. And Davina, I look forward to so much more sharing with you, because really it was out of what we shared and what the substance that Anne and I have been sharing in a close way through attunements over the last 2 months that has allowed some of this to come through and be brought to you. So Davina, I'll turn it over to you, and you can receive some comments, and let's let our comments be succinct and sacred and offered to the Most High, our Lord and his beloved. And we are their body.
Well, in this spacious consideration, I would like to highlight Davina's presence and the fact that she's stepped into the light and she brought her light. So thank you, Davina. And I appreciate all that went into what you allowed the waters to be gathered in you for you to present. You mentioned the word fusion. Heaven and earth are one. And thinking of your setting, you took great care for that setting. And that represents far more than just the physical setting. It represents atmosphere and the specificity to provide all that we can as an individual to speak the word it's ours to speak. And you used beautiful words, you read beautiful words that I love and cherish. But what was behind them was that spirit of the single eye, of the fusion of heaven and earth, and that his will is done by you and by the angels. I love what you brought out with the lattice of angels. And we're part of that, and this release of love into the world. Thank you.
I echo my deepest appreciation for what you've both provided this morning, this sacred space, the holy place that we are able to dwell in together and meditate in together. And this is what we hold in ourselves as we are out in the world, so to speak. We are awake angels. And the people that come into our presence, I am here as the Lord and Queen, as the merging of both. I am present with whomever comes into my world on any daily basis. This week, I happen to have been working in Olympia, our state capital, with a number of legislators. And this was always in my mind. In fact, there was one moment I was in the center of the Capitol building, and this is a gorgeous building, if you've ever been in it, all marble with a big, beautiful dome. And I stood there and thought, oh, if only I could just dance the Lord's joy in this Capitol building to bring her essence into government. And I felt such a privilege. I stood there in my business suit. I didn't do anything except think that. But the spirit was there. And the spirit was there when I met with the various legislators to bring light and love. And isn't that what we're doing as awake angels? But we can only do that when this sacred, holy place, as Davina so exquisitely described and obviously knows from her own living, and David as well. This is what we bring. And I just am so deeply thankful that we as a collective can have these considerations together, that we can let that spirit just roar with beauty. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say something to both Davina and David. Thank you very much for focusing on the large scale, sure, the 28,000 years, that's a pretty big number. But you also both so clearly focused on what's, quite frankly, much more approachable and much more impactful where I live. Which one is the kitchen, focusing in on what can I do to really sanctify my kitchen? I love that. And then David pointing out, the innermost feelings of our master, perhaps a little speculative, but I can relate. How many times have I been talking to Terry, my wife, and it became very clear to me, leave her alone from my, whatever force of character, personality actually, pouring through me. How to be just clearly one with my wife. And of course, that translates to any interaction I have with anybody, even my cat. It's incredible. It all starts at such a fine focus, as Davina kept pointing out, such a fine focus, but it magnifies from there into everything. And I agree. I may not live, 40 more years to see the final outworking, but I am living far enough to know that it's happening, it's there. And Yeah, I love this time that we spend together.
What a great pleasure to be part of this gossamer lattice that you mentioned. The mesentery of the body, you know, how that spreads out. The net of light. I just almost can't believe that I get to be here to hear these words spoken together out loud from the male and the female. My last name came to me about 10 years ago, Merit. It's the Egyptian derivation of Mother Mary. And I have known for a long time what the essences of Mary of Bethany was and is. I'm so privileged to have this gift and to be with you all. I was looking through Grace's book, Cosmic View of the Bible, a while back, and she mentions Mare, M-A-R-E, the mother, Mary, pure consciousness. That's all the Mary together, pure consciousness, the mesentery of the body, the eye, the womb. And it's no wonder that the water cycle right now, the womb. I am so appreciative to be part of this body. I have felt the collective coming together so poignantly in the last while. All of us needed, no matter what grouping. And I've shared with Marcia just recently that I have been called to go in the returning cycle of the heart of the mother. I'm going to Sunrise Ranch. I'm going to be there for a season starting in June. My family's leaving here. And I was called in that substance for no other reason than the allegiance to the queen and the king that I know in myself, to return to the heart of the body, for that flow to keep going out with all of you. God love us all.
David, Davina, what an exquisite time of worship this is. And I give thanks to the King and Queen for the entrustment of what has been opened at this time. We have noted in our comments the word gossamer lattice. And as I understand gossamer, it's very, very delicate. And we've been entrusted by the Lord with delicate, precious substance, which I sense our shared rejoicing and give utterance to it. And yet, at the same time, note that my response and steadfastness that you mentioned, Davina, is required as this delicate substance is allowed to continue into strong sinew upon which the world can be drawn as all is returned to the one we serve.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, everybody. Gossamer lattice work. Reforming of the capstone. Strengthening. Taking shape ever stronger. The king and the queen have been present all along. There has never been a time when the queen has not been here. Virtually unknown and probably very wisely kept hidden. Leave her alone. But leave her alone to blossom. Let her true radiance come forth, because there is a safe place for it to do so. And that safe place can only be brought by her angels, male and female, to create that safe place. I'd like to pass over to David for any final comments he may wish to make before he then passes over to Steve. Thank you.
You're on mute, Dave.
I think I've said all I need to say. And I would return it to you, Davina. And I loved your closing words, the way you unified all the comments and brought it into the central flow. And so back to you.
Thankful are we now to be filled with praise, Lord, to thee. So shall our living bless this earth. Thankful are we, Holy King, Holy Queen. Amen. Steve.
The sacredness of this moment articulate in our hearts with our minds open for the continuance. Our third year beginning reveals the earth of our King and Queen. Let's so continue. April 30th, Robert Merriman will continue our conversation. Robert, you have some music?